Hello, my name is Dustin Atwood. I've been a master certified automotive technician for about 2.5 decades. So, professionally, with the company that I'm at now, I have been, an apprentice. I started as a, tech sweeping the floors, no ASE certifications. I probably should explain what ASE certifications are, and forgive me, I'm trying to kind of work our audio out here, so you're going to see me kind of learning on the job here. And I think that's one of the most important things is that folks, sometimes you just got to mess around and find out. And so that's essentially what we're doing. I have done a radio show for, I don't know, probably 12 years, maybe not quite. 8 and 9 years was our own radio show here locally in Springfield, Missouri. And so we're branching out just a little bit off of that, and you're getting to see the first part of this. So we'll see whether this ever sees the light of day or the internet. So what is an ASE certified mechanic, technician, however you want to call that? That is automotive service excellence, and it doesn't mean that you can fix everything out there, but it is a standard that essentially here in the United States that we have decided that this is going to be kind of our bar, if you will. This is the standards to meet for automotive service excellence. And I have been master certified for well over a decade, maybe 2 decades at this point. I'm not only master certified in automotive, which I believe is 8 tests, and that would be brake, steering, suspension, heating and air, engine repair, transmission, manual, etc. But I'm also master certified in medium and heavy duty truck. I also have several advanced level certifications, and that is just really me being able to decide that, hey, I take what I do very seriously. And the reason I'm kind of starting this podcast and the reason we did the radio show for so long was I felt like the industry needs to share that with the general public out there and maybe do their part in educating, folks on what it's like to be in a, automotive service center. As I kind of look at my desk here, I'm kind of getting set up, so we'll see this. I know this looks like a magazine out of maybe a rifle or an AR-15, but it's not. This is actually kind of a neat thing that I found as I was kind of setting up our podcast to hold my SD card. So as I saw it here on the film, I thought I would at least mention that it's just for my memory card for hopefully the podcast that we do on a regular basis and share with you. So I feel like this first one, we need to talk about kind of who I am and where I've come from. Now, I've been with the same company now for 22 years, I think. And that has been a big blessing for me to have some consistency and get to know a lot of the folks around the Springfield Republic and then Northwest Arkansas. So I'm the operations manager for 5 locations here in Southwest Missouri and Northern Arkansas or Northwestern Arkansas. And what that means is I have gained a tremendous amount of experience over the years, and I've run into a lot of things not to do. As well as when you run into the, hey, this didn't work out, I've also figured out how to overcome a lot of that. And that's really been what the show has been about for many, many years at this point in time. Making sure that we are able to overcome a lot of things that most folks maybe haven't seen before, as well as the reason that I took this job at A1 Custom Car Care or A1 Custom Muffler and Brake back in the day was I interviewed and had 4 different job offers when I came out of my trade school. I did attend a 2-year vocational school through our high school. They sent us down to Monette, Missouri, and I believe it's called Southwest Area Career Center at that point. I think they have changed it to Scott Tech at this point. I had an absolutely tip-top instructor back then, and I cannot express any more appreciation for that man than there's just not words. Greg Allen was the gentleman's name. He was a long-term pillar in that community as far as automotive repair and did an amazing job teaching. Now, he did kind of take me under his wing and teach me some additional things because as far as I know, out of my vocational school, I think I'm the only one that actually has done this for a living, especially consistency, essentially since high school. So I'm just turning 40 years old, or I've been 40 for a while. I'll be 41 this year. Like I said, I've been with this company for 20 some years. I have also continued my education, and that's really a big part of the industry. It used to be every 28 days there was a manufacturer that had a large technology shift or change in an operating system, whether it's anti-lock brakes, stability control, engine, transmission, etc. Now I bet it's probably daily at this point. I mean, as we're talking right now, this is the 27th of February, and Nissan is in the news. They're getting ready to go bankrupt. Honda talked about taking them over, which I think would have been a good move for Nissan especially. But I think Honda would have been able to ramp up some of their production pretty quickly and supply better quality cars. I'm not a big Nissan fan personally. I work on a lot of them. I've kept a lot of them running for many, many years, decades, hundreds of thousands of miles for customers. I really thought Nissan did a good job through the 90s. I thought they were great vehicles, and even into the 2000s, even maybe into that 2010 era. And then the kind of EPA and some of the CAFE standards, and if you're not familiar with what the CAFE standards are, that is the standard fuel economy that a fleet can get here in the United States. And so a lot of that started to take its toll, and then the quality just really started to go down because they had to make concessions in order to meet the CAFE standards, along with emissions. I mean, I can bore you guys to death for hours on that, but that's not really what the premise of this video is. It's to kind of give an origin story, I guess, of where I come from. So forgive me for bird walking around a little bit. Sometimes, I just feel the need to be able to move into current events, and that's one of the current events here in February. So I have started from the bottom. I was supposed to be an apprentice for a couple of years. I didn't last as an apprentice. Really, in about 6 months, they said, hey, you're ready for full service commission technician status, and so that's where I went, and I never looked back. So initially our company was about custom exhaust and undercar service, so A1 custom muffler and brake, and we really shifted away from that really about the time that I came on with the company, and I think that was more a vision of the company at that point. So it was a very good time for me to come in, not necessarily that I made all that happen, but I had come out of a full service education system. So we did steering and suspension, drivability, electrical, air conditioning, etc. And A1 was wanting to, go full service mechanical repair. We don't do auto body work, but we have heavily invested in all of our staff, me included, with a lot of ongoing training and equipment. And that was one of the biggest things for me as somebody coming into the industry. And when I talked earlier, to kind of bring it back to, I had 4 job offers when I came out of school. I had one of them in a Chrysler dealership. I really would have liked to have gone to work there. Their head tech there, I still kind of know of him. I don't know him personally, but he is an amazing Chrysler technician, or Stellantis technician at this point in time. Does a really good job, and I think I would have done really good working under him, cutting my teeth and getting into the business. The service manager happened to be a snake in the grass at that particular dealership, which that dealership doesn't even exist anymore. It went out of business many years ago. And so he moved on, and he actually works at a Dodge dealer here close to me, and so I still hear quite a bit about him. He's doing a very good job, and he's kind of the go-to guy in his world, and rightfully so. So I ended up not taking that job because of the service manager. I did interview at a Firestone, probably would have been okay there. They offered me a position, and I'll tell you why I didn't take any of those other positions here at the end of this discussion. But the third one was another independent, and then the fourth one was here at A1 Custom Car Care. And when I talked to the technicians or service managers, etc., most of them hadn't been there more than 6 months. That was their veteran person. And so as I, kind of thought about it, I didn't really understand what that meant until I kind of came here to A1, and I interviewed with the owner at the time and the operations manager at the time. Her and her husband ended up buying the company about 10 years ago now, and I've worked for them my entire career, essentially. So when I interviewed here, their newest employee was 15 years. And being a young guy out of school, I'd done a little construction in there while I was going to school and whatnot, so I may have been 19 to 20, somewhere in there. May have even been 18. I don't totally remember. I'm sure I can look it up in my employee file. But as I, kind of decided which job to take and which one to say, hey, no, I appreciate the offer, but I'm going to pass. That 15 years versus the 6 months really, really stuck out. And I didn't understand at the time, and I don't know that I have 100% understanding, but I think I have a very good understanding of it now. The tenure of the staff mattered to me as far as going to work for a company that you weren't just a number. And I'll do another podcast or live stream here, whatever this turns into, if I decide to upload it. It's a video on the internet. We'll see. I decided that I wanted to see what that was about. So I took the job, and they've invested very heavily in me, as well as the other staff within the company. I mean, we do multiple trainings throughout the company, multiple online trainings. We have AVI On Demand Institute, which is an automotive training company. So very good resources, as well as we've been able to invest in the equipment. So it's kind of a trifecta, if you will, to get good automotive service. And I really think a lot of this mindset could be done in different businesses other than automotive if you're a skilled trade. And really a skilled trade is probably a whole topic on itself, and we'll do a video on that as we go forward. But really kind of where we come from and who A1 Custom is, and then who Dustin Atwood is as well. The trail or the path is definitely blended at this point. I very much feel that I am part of or in addition to A1 Custom Car Care. And then when any of you see me out on the street, you're probably seeing me in uniform, and I answer a lot of questions to the best of my ability on behalf of A1 Custom because I think they're one and the same. And I felt like that for many years. I don't own the company, but I still have that ownership mentality. And so when I run into somebody else in a different business that treats or conducts himself in that same way, I really appreciate that. And that's what I've always tried to do here at A1 Custom. So when I took the job, I started to see why. Again, I want to touch that we weren't just a number. We were able to talk to the owner, the operations officer, and have input. Now, it wasn't always the right input, and maybe I needed to learn something, but they would listen, and if it was the right call, then we would move forward. So as I grew with the company, I started as a learning exhaust technician and undercar service, and then worked into drivability, was one of their main exhaust technicians for many years, still do and teach a lot of custom exhaust, and that's a skill set that's dying, unfortunately, faster than it should. And so as we go through kind of the evolution of the automotive industry, I've watched a lot of those 15-year employees become 20, 30, and even 40-year employees. I've got a technician, I think at the end of this year, beginning of next year, he'll be with us 40 years. I don't know a lot of companies that can say that. And I really never thought I would be one of them that says, hey, I've been with a company 20 plus years, let alone moved into assistant manager positions for, probably 6 or 7 years if I had to guess, and then move into an operations role, which is where I speak to you at this point in my career, in my life. And I've been doing an operations role for anywhere from 30 to 38 employees. Now, we have managers that help me a lot with this. This is much bigger than Dustin Atwood for sure. And we have some amazing technicians and service advisors that I sure as heck don't want to do this by myself. So I feel like my role now is to be as dedicated to hopefully being a good leader, not just a boss, and that's kind of a buzz term out there. But it's also about, being able to see what's coming down the pipe in the industry and protect that legacy knowledge that we have with the long-term staff that we have. The newer people that we have within the company, some of them have been with me, 10, 12 years, some of them 2 or 3 years, and then we're still expanding, and I've hired a few the last few months. The newer people in the company, I need to invest in as well and make sure that we vetted them and did right by the hiring process, as well as we didn't just kick them in the deep end and decide, hey, figure this thing out, good luck. Unfortunately, I got to admit and keep it real. I've done that over the years, and I look back on that as a failure on my part. and have really dedicated a lot of me to finding and figuring that out of how I can do better, not to, basically run people out of the automotive business. And if you'll bear with me a moment, just a brief thought process on that. I went to a Vision Expo or Vision training in Kansas City. I'm getting ready to go to it again, probably about 10 years ago. And there was a gentleman from a very large automotive parts manufacturer and a distributor, I guess, really would be a better way to put it, was in there, and he made a statement. He said, "We have to stop eating our young." And I really disagreed with that when he said it. And with that being said, there is a lot of training that I've been to that I wasn't ready for the information yet. But that doesn't mean I just discarded it. I filed it away, and then as I grew my skill set, or grew my mind, if you will, later I figured out that training was right. I was just ignorant and didn't understand it. And so that's really where that statement came from. I strongly disagreed with it, but I didn't discard it. And I decided, well, nobody ate me. Fortunately, I was stubborn enough that I didn't just give up when I saw a lot of others. Now, had I taken a job at one of those other places that didn't invest in me or care that I was successful, maybe I would have. But I thankfully didn't. Whether that was divine intervention or somebody looking out for me, probably was. I definitely wasn't smart enough to know that at the time. But there was that 15-year versus 6 months thing that was sitting in the back of my mind. And so I really dove in with both feet. And I would argue that I'm still there to this day. And I am given everything I got, to take on some of the biggest challenges in the industry and within our company. It'd be a heck of a lot easier just to be a technician and probably make a pretty good living as well. Not that that's an easy job. That has its own challenges. But now I still keep my edge sharp in the technician, but I'm in the people business at this point in time. And what that means to me, and really what I believe that means to A1 Custom, and I've been mentored by that my entire career, is that we are a byproduct of our people. And so if we're doing a good job with our people, they take care of our customers. Our customers are our people as well. You can call them clients, whatever. A lot of them I've become friends, and I won't do this for everybody, but I've gone to their house and I've helped them with their generator and, lawnmowers sometimes. If I can help you, I definitely will. If it's not in my wheelhouse, then it's not in my wheelhouse. But automotive very much is. And even as a young child, I only wanted to do automotive repair. I wanted to be this exact person that I am right now since I was a kid. And I really have no idea why it is that I always knew who and what I wanted to be. And then, it hasn't been easy, and I've not always been successful at it. I have had some absolute devastating defeats out there. And maybe I should have walked away from it, but I just don't have that in me. And so those lessons have been what has gotten me this far, and the ability that, hey, I just haven't decided enough's enough, and I'm going to keep at it. And I feel like I got a good, strong another 20 years in me. I'd like to still be working on cars, into my 50s and 60s. I'd like to do it as an enjoyable, I've worked with mechanics that absolutely hated their job, and it's just miserable. And I don't want to be one of those guys. And I feel like the only way that I don't become one of those people is that I keep pushing myself to get better and better, and I don't get complacent. My dad was a dealership auto body guy. He got out of that when I was probably in my early teens, maybe around 10, we'll say somewhere between there, and got into auto glass. So he was always in the automotive space, and so a lot of his friends were automotive people as well. And so I got to see the evolution of distributorless ignition, port fuel injection from carburetors, now direct injection. And I see a lot of the guys that are burned out because they don't keep up with the technology and they're just spent. And I know at some point in time I'm going to want to hang up my wrenches as well, but I ain't ready for that yet. And I feel like there's still a lot of exciting things in the automotive industry, and so I'm not taking my foot off the gas. So part of that is this podcast that we're sitting here visiting with you right now about. I'm hoping that we can start pushing this out in a weekly format. Some of it will be here in my office. I'll finally do some decorating in here. Looks pretty sterile in here at the moment. And I'll be able to bring you into the bay. So kind of to wrap it back around and kind of just give you a little bit of a layout of what this podcast is going to look like. We're going to stream it on YouTube. I'm probably going to push it on Facebook and TikTok and Instagram and all the places that we can push it. And then we're going to push the audio version of this out to all the places you will find your podcasting. And I feel like the educational part of this is not me selling A1 Custom Car Care. A1 Custom Car Care is a great company. This is me selling basically who we are and what we're about. And if you have a trusted service center that, approaches the industry, the customers, the business the way we do, great. You need to stay with them. If you've been struggling to find that, and I see it here in the bays all the time. So you are here in my office with me, and I'm going to take you out in the bays, but I typically don't stay a lot of time here in the office. I'm in the service bays with the technicians as much as I possibly can. Now, I can't let the business side of things down, so I'm trying to figure the work-life business balance, if you will. And so I don't want to lose the skills that it's taken me a couple of decades to make sure that I'm very sharp at. So I'm going to take you into the shop, but we're going to talk about a lot of things here in my office. And most of the topics we talk about will come from things that I'm seeing in the shops during the week. And so maybe it'll be a 10-minute, maybe it'll be a 2-minute, maybe it'll be a 30-minute talk. We're 22 minutes in, 21 and a half minutes now. And I want to share what it's like in the industry from somebody doing it. This information isn't coming from somebody else's books or case studies or lessons. Yeah, people have taught me things over the years, and I'll do my best to kind of reference them as they come up. But I've done it by School of Hard Knocks, has been most of it, as well as some amazing instruction over the years with people that decided that I was worthy of investing. And so that's what I want to share with you, along with kind of what's going on in the automotive space itself. We went through, the last basically 2020 to 2024, where there was a terrible shortage for many reasons on new and used automobiles, and it drove the prices to the moon, which is unbelievable. And so with that being said, I have to figure out how we kind of come down off of that. And that's really where we're at here in late February of 25. You're seeing the new car market and the days on lot or inventory on lot be over 200 and some days for a lot of manufacturers. Stellantis is really struggling. Ford's having some issues with an abundance or overabundance of product that they can't sell, which is going to drive the price down. So it's shifting drastically from a seller's market that we have all had for the last 3-4 years to a buyer's market. Now, that swing comes with its own challenges as well. But for you and I as a consumer out there, buying a truck, let's say, half-ton, three-quarter ton, or 1 ton, pretty much the cheapest out there, even some of the work truck trim packages, I'm talking base of the base. I don't know that they do manual windows anymore, but vinyl floors, none of the bells and whistles. I mean, $40,000, $50,000, that's crazy. It's not been that long ago that, $50,000 to $100,000 would buy you a pretty doggone nice house, and it's just those days are gone for right now. However, things are starting to come back to normal or level out from this crazy peak of costing, mainly because the consumers won't buy it. One of the guys that I follow online, his channel is called The Economic Ninja. He's out in California. Seems to have it together. He's not one of the fruits and nuts as far as I can tell. His saying is the cure for high prices is high prices. And the first time I heard him say that, I was like, man, you're kind of talking in circles here. But the reality is, until you and I as a consumer decide that, hey, that price is too high, we're not paying it, people won't bring their prices down. And that's everything from eggs out there at $9 to $12 a dozen, which is kind of crazy, to automobiles. And so we do our level best to make sure that the value that we bring is that we fix your car. And that's what I was talking about with kind of some of the best practices, the equipment, the training. I continue to see, because I don't spend all my time here in the office and I'm out in the shops and in the service bays quite often, that people have, if you're a do-it-yourselfer, great, but I've had some collateral damage there. But more often than not, you paid your hard-earned money to somebody who didn't get your car fixed, or maybe they fixed, this part, but they didn't do a good evaluation of the car, and maybe you got tires on there, you drove away, which I've had this happen, and you have loose front-end components that fall off, or you have brakes that go to grinding. My goal, or our goal here at A1 Custom, is to make sure that you have a good evaluation of your vehicle. So if you come in for, say, brakes, I want to make sure that your wheels aren't falling off when you leave with my new brakes. Or if we put tires on it, I want to make sure your brakes aren't grinding, or you have a coolant leak and overheat, or it's out of oil. I mean, there's a million things that I see every week that, had somebody been educated or knew to check it, to bring it in and get it checked out, fill it up and make sure it doesn't run out of whatever vital fluid that it needs, I wouldn't have to spend as much of your hard-earned money fixing that. Or I wouldn't see you discard a vehicle that was in perfectly good shape had we got there before it was too catastrophic. So we're coming up on 30 minutes here of kind of who Dustin Atwood is, what this podcast is going to be about, and what A1 Custom is, and who we are as a company. And so I'm going to try and share that with you every week. I'm sure there's going to be ways that you can send me questions, or even call up one of the shops and say, hey, we heard Dustin's podcast on A1 Custom Car Care. I'd really like him to talk about whatever. Fuel is a big topic, fuel economy. Hey, I got this issue. I'm not a diagnostic wizard that I can diagnose it for you without taking a look at it, but I can give you some insights on maybe what's going on with it, and the proper testing procedures that need to be happened to where you're right. When you spend your money, you're spending it in the right place. So if this interests you out there, please get involved with the show. I'm going to try and do this on a regular basis, but this is the first edition of A1 Custom Car Care's podcast. And YouTube, if you see it on some of the other socials, let me know where you saw it from. And definitely, if you want to know what's going on or ask some questions, definitely let me hear about it. I appreciate you sharing the time with me.